Oh, thank you all for tuning in to another edition of Outside the Shop with me, your host, Daryl D. Lane, as always, where I get to talk about everything that I normally don't get to talk about in my regular sports podcast, which you can find on Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, wherever you get your podcasting apps from. The podcast I released last night, I posted on Facebook today. You can find it on my page. I have been Karen on, host of the Sports Father podcast, and we previewed week 17 of the NFL, also got into college football as well, and we did predictions for the games, in particular the Ohio State versus Clemson game, the Notre Dame versus Alabama game that should be starting right about now. If you want to listen to that, I attached the link below in the description, so you can just click on that link, and it's about a 5-minute YouTube video. Also, by the way, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're going to start cutting more clips of my regular sports podcast on there. And me and Ben, we predict Ohio State, Clemson, and Notre Dame, Alabama. Now, folks, also, Happy New Year's. Happy New Year's to everybody. Hope it's better than this crazy 2020 that we've had. Let's start 2021 off with a bang. So, we have Notre Dame versus Alabama. Just quickly, I want to give your thoughts. I think it's going to be a blowout. I don't think it's going to be particularly close. Alabama is just too big, too fast, too strong. There are levels to this. Notre Dame got smacked the last time they played by Clemson. What do you think Alabama is going to do to them? I do not think it's going to be a particularly good outcome for the Irish. Now, next to the next college football semifinal game, Clemson versus Ohio State. I have them winning in a triple overtime thriller. I think this is going to be really exciting. It's going to be riveting. It's going to be great TV. This game's going to be at 8 o'clock. We're going to have Ryan Day versus Dabo. We're going to have Justin Fields versus Trevor Lawrence. We're going to have the two teams that we think that could maybe, possibly beat Alabama in the country. So I think it's going to be a really good game. It took everything for Clemson to win last year in the semis. I think it's going to take the same thing. I think Clemson's going to come out again. I think Clemson's going to come out on top. But I think it's just going to be just as tough. And we're going to look and be like, damn, that was one hell of a college football game. And also, I do have to say this to my guy, Ben Karen. How about the Cincinnati Bearcats? Because Ben thought they were going to get blown out by the Georgia Bulldogs, who are 8th in the country, I believe. And it ended up being Georgia 24, Cincinnati 21. Not bad for a group of 5 school, right? So maybe they were a top 10 team all year, Ben. So just want to remind you of that. Now, let's get to this. So Mississippi State's Malik Heath brags on Instagram about kicking Tulsa player in a brawl. So for those of you who don't know, Mississippi State, who was like 3-7, got invited to play in a bowl game against Tulsa because of the COVID stuff, teams canceling. And there's another story about this. Why the hell is a 3-7 team allowed in a bowl game? I think that's wrong. I think that's egregious. But nonetheless, that was allowed to happen. Mississippi State beats them. But the story here is there is a brawl towards the end of the game. And during the brawl, we have Malik Heath bragging about kicking a player in the head. That's wrong. It's disgraceful. I wouldn't mind if he lost his scholarship. It's definitely not what you want representing your university. Just bad news bears and bad looks all around. And sometimes I think, and like I'm around his age, so I don't actually really understand this because sometimes people can say they're just kids. No, I'm like in his age range, right? I'm in his age range. I cannot imagine, even if you did kick, first of all, it's wrong to kick him in the head. But even if you did, right? Why would you say that on Instagram Live? Why would you do that? It's just stupid. It's just stupid. That's just not smart. If you're going to at least do wrong, I mean, do it smart. Like, see, a lot of people break the rules and they're just idiots. That's why they get caught. The really dangerous people in the world are the ones that break the rules and then they're smart. He was just being an idiot, and what he did is egregious. It's disgraceful. It's embarrassing to the university, and he should be dealt with. Now, NFL predictions. Me and Ben also went over that, so you can check out the regular podcast as well if you want to get an in-depth analysis. But really quickly, I just want to say this. So the AFC, for the wild cards, there is going to be one 10-win team in the AFC that misses the playoffs. We have the Colts versus Jaguars, Ravens versus Bengals, Browns versus Steelers, Titans versus Texans, Dolphins versus Bills. One of those teams, whether it be the Colts, Ravens, Titans, Browns, or Dolphins, is going to miss the playoffs. I think It so happens it's going to be the Dolphins, sadly. I think if I'm ranking these games in order of hardest to easiest, easiest to hardest, I would say the Colts versus Jaguars, that's a layup. The Colts should get to 11 wins. Ravens versus Bengals, that should be a layup for the Bengals. The Ravens should get to 11 wins. Titans versus Texans, this could be kind of tricky with how good Deshaun Watson can be, but I think the Titans are going to pull through in the end and get to 11 wins as well. You have the Browns versus Steelers. I think this game is going to be a lot closer than you may think, but Baker Mayfield and co should get this done. Mike Tomlin, the Pittsburgh Steelers, have called off the dogs. Ben Roethlisberger will not play, so this is a game you need to win if you want to be the Browns and not the Clowns. And Dolphins versus Bills. I think this is the hardest matchup. The Bills are going to play their guys. The Bills are going to go for it. They're going to be without Ryan Fitzpatrick, a guy that has come in and won them games, who can bring some veteran stability, so I don't think that's great for the Dolphins, which is sad for the Dolphins, right? I have no love lost for the Dolphins as a Bills fan, but it sucks for your fan base, right? When you're a 10-win team and you miss the play, especially when we watch the ineptitude that's going on in the NFC East, when we're going to have probably a 7 or 6-win team make the playoffs. Just not right. Now, I also want to get to this. So the NFC East. So Dallas is going to play the Giants. I'm going to pick Dallas to win. Also, the Eagles are going to play Washington. I'm going to pick the Eagles to win, and that will allow the Dallas Cowboys to be in the playoffs. And isn't it crazy if this ends up happening? The Dallas Cowboys are in the playoffs after how their season went, after how awful it was at points. Players complaining about effort. Players criticizing Mike McCarthy. Us wondering what the hell's going on. They need Jason Garrett back. Dak Prescott, that ugly, gruesome injury. What the hell's wrong with Ezekiel Elliott? He hasn't been the same. After all this drama, they can still make the playoffs. And lastly, in terms of NFL predictions, we have the Rams, who are 9-6 versus the Cardinals, who are 8-7. And the really interesting story is John Wolford from Wake Forest will get the start versus the Cards. Now, for those of you who don't know who John Wolford is, he has a LinkedIn profile that's active. So that lets you know that he wasn't planning to be an NFL quarterback. He has never thrown a pass or started in a game or played in a game in the NFL. So this will be very interesting to see how this goes. I'm still going to pick the Rams to win. I think they're going to gut out a tough, close, physical game, and I think the Cardinals are going to lose. Also, Kyler Murray's hurt. I don't think he's going to be the same, and that's not going to be good for Arizona. And lastly, with the Jets no longer have the number 1 overall pick, Sam Darnold says his best days are ahead of him, with rumors on his potential maybe return to New York. I think Sam Darnold's probably better than we all think he is. I know he hasn't had the greatest start with the Jets, but how? Who is good with the Jets? They're awful, right? They're awful. Sometimes I think we need to look at players and think about this. Is it the player who's bad, or is it the organization? Is it the player or the organization? Listen, Sam Darnold, he was drafted 3rd overall in the draft for a reason. Adam Gase, as we've seen, he's incompetent. No one likes him. He hasn't done a great job at developing Darnold. I think you give Darnold one more chance. I think you trade down, get draft capital, or you get a guy from Oregon like a Penny Sewell or something like that just to help build your roster. Particularly since you're not getting Trevor Lawrence, just wait. Get a new coach and see how Sam Darnold does, and then you can work next year. There's going to be some other QBs that are coming out, potentially maybe if a Mac Jones comes out, a Sam Wolf out of North Carolina. He's projected to be a potential number 1 overall pick. So just see how it goes. I think you need to give Sam Darnold a chance with a new regime. But definitely wouldn't fault the Jets if they decided to go the other way. And that's all we have for this edition of Outside the Shop. Like I said, if you want to listen to the Ohio State Clemson predictions, you can click on the YouTube link. Also, subscribe to the YouTube channel. And if you want to check out the regular sports podcast, it's on Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, all your podcasting apps and platforms. Like I said, have a great New Year's. Let's kick 2021 off with a bang. We're going to have some great college football games, and we're going to have some great NFL on Sunday. God bless everybody.